She was still breathing. Alina Reznik stared out across the lunar basin through the thick fog of static on her helmet's glass. The silence outside was unnatural haven for the moon. Her heart thundered in her ears, a rhythm out of place in a world that had never known birdsong or wind god above her. A black streak smoldered across the stars, fading. It wasn't a meteor. It was the Noctis Terran research vessel, supposedly decommissioned 8 years ago. No flight records. No authorization. No beacon. It had fallen through lunar orbit as if summoned from another dimension, and it hadn't. Burned. It had landed. Alina's voice crackled through the comms. "Ground Team Delta, do you copy?" Nothing. They were all watching it too. The screens in Houston had gone black the moment the Noctis breached atmosphere. An atmosphere no one even knew existed over this crater. Silent Basin, they'd called it. A name given by a telescope, not by humans who'd ever stepped here. Now she stood in it. Her boots left crisp, perfect imprints in the regolith. But the real imprint was in her mind. Something was wrong. A shadow shifted near the crash site. She raised her plasma rifle slowly. Breath held. Then it moved again. Not human. Not alien either. Something between. Something that looked lost. The figure stumbled forward. Vesper Kairos' name lit up in the HUD, drawn from a pre-war Terran pilot registry that should have been dust by now. A soldier. A ghost. A mythy collapsed 3 meters from her boots. Alina dropped beside him, fingers trembling as she scanned him. Vital signs wild, erratic, but strong. And around his neck hung a crystal unlike anything she'd seen before. Not Terran, not lunar. It pulsed faintly blue, like it is alive. "Who are you?" she whispered, more to herself. His lips moved. Dry. Bleeding. Then he spoke. "They buried the sky." Her blood turned to ice. It wasn't just a crash, it was a return. Meanwhile, orbit side, Commander Breck Soren stood motionless aboard the Halberd 9 cruiser, watching through a live feed. He tapped a single command into the holo console. "Drone surveillance protocol. Engaged. Secure the basin," he said coldly. "And if anyone tries to leave, terminate." Alina Reznik's hands hovered above the crystal, as if it might burn her through the suit. But it didn't. It hummed low, melodic vibration, like the sound of distant whales echoing across frozen oceans. It resonated not through her ears but through her bones. She glanced at Vesper. His breathing had stabilized, but his eyes remained closed. His skin bore traces of radiation, yet of no isotope known to Terran science. He should be dead. He wasn't. Artifact pulsed once more, this time with a flash of symbols across her visor. Not English, not any known language yet. She understood. "We are not gone. We are waiting back on the Halberd 9. Commander Breck Soren watched the incoming data feed with a clenched jaw. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Karan Vel, looked confused. "Sir, that energy signature, it's not lunar. It's not even local. It's quantum-rooted, interlinked with antimatter decay from the Kepler rift." Breck said nothing. He knew. He'd always known the Noctis wasn't just a ghost ship, it was a carrier, and the thing it carried was waking up. Alina had set up a temporary biocontainment pod inside the crater. Vesper lay within, still unconscious, though his fingers occasionally twitched as if playing keys. Only he could see she recorded a voice log. "The crystal is emitting rhythmic pulses every 47 seconds. Each one alters the gravity by 0.04 gigaseconds. I believe it's communicating, but not with us, with something out there." She paused. Her eyes drifted toward the stars. The ones that didn't twinkle. The ones that moved that night, if you could call it that, on the moon. Vesper opened his eyes. They glowed faintly. "You shouldn't have taken it," he said, voice raw but lucid. Alina turned toward him, half startled, half relieved. "What is it?" He didn't answer at first. His gaze locked onto the crystal suspended in its isolation field. Then, it's not a what, it's a who. A sharp alarm cut through the silence breach detected. Dozens of drones military-grade, Terran-coded but unregistered brick had arrived. Alina grabbed her rifle. We're not ready for a war. Vesper stood slowly, unsteady on his feet, but his voice had steadied. It's not a war you should fear. A pause. It's the ones coming to answer the crystal's call. Far beyond lunar orbit, sensors that hadn't blinked in millennia flickered to life. Somewhere in the void, something very old, very distant, and very angry turned its face toward Earth. The first drone struck without warning. A searing beam of blue light tore through the lunar surface, vaporizing the old comms tower Alina had used to ping Houston. Dust and data evaporated in seconds. She ducked behind the jagged rock edge of the basin rim, the crystal clutched to her chest in its containment unit. Vesper was already moving, fast, unnaturally fast. His injuries from the crash had seemingly vanished. What the hell are you? She hissed as he yanked her into a crevice between two massive regolith outcrops. Later, he growled, "Move." They dropped into a narrow subtunnel beneath the crater, a relic from the original Apollo deep core probes, long since abandoned. As Alina activated the dim tunnel lights, she turned toward him. You knew they'd come. The drones. Breck. All of it. I knew the moment you touched the artifact, Vesper said, tone low but sharp. It's a signal. They've been waiting for someone to activate it. Alina narrowed her eyes. You mean you? He didn't deny it meanwhile. High above, aboard Halberd 9, Breck Sorn leaned over a live link. His visor flickered with distorted visuals. Alina and Vesper disappearing underground. He spoke softly to an unknown recipient on the secure channel. Target has made contact with the interface object. Human xenofusion detected. Confirming. Anomaly. A garbled voice replied. Not human. Harvest window. 72 hours. Secure hybrid. Terminate host. He killed the line in the caverns below the Silent Basin. The world was not silent. The walls hummed ancient. Carvings etched into stone millions of years before Terran life had formed lit up as the crystal drew near. Alina touched the glyphs. Who built this? Vesper's jaw clenched. They're called the Echo. Not a race. Not a species. A dot resonance. A memory of beings that once were. They don't live. They recur. The crystal began to vibrate violently. Then, a projection burst forth. An alien landscape. Towering cities made of liquid metal. Suns that never set and war. Collapse. Ruin, and one ship knocked us fleeing across a star map into Earth's solar system. Alina turned toward him slowly. You didn't crash. No. You were running. No. A pause. You were sent. Alina lowered the weapon she didn't realize she'd been raising. I'm not helping a damn messenger, she whispered. I'm not the messenger, Vesper replied. I'm the warning. Above, Breck deployed a full platoon of drop units to storm the basin. But as the shuttles descended, a massive tremor rocked the moon. Something was waking. Below, the glyphs on the walls turned red. Alina looked up. What does that mean? Vesper was already pulling her forward. It means we're not the only ones down here. Deep in the Echo Vault, in a chamber long forgotten by time, 6 containment pods cracked open. Humanoid figures with translucent skin and hollow eyes stepped forward. They didn't speak, just looked at Vesper and knelt. They knelt in absolute silence. 6 beings tall, spectral, bodies aglow like frozen lightning surrounded Vesper in the Vault of Echoes. Their eyes were voids. Their hands bore the same symbols carved across the chamber walls. They were remnants, guardians, survivors. But they weren't here to kill. They were here to serve. Vesper stood still, jaw tight, as if The moment terrified him more than anything above ground. Alina clutched the crystal tighter. "They recognize you." "I was part of the signal," he said slowly. "I carried the seed in my mind, a map, an invitation." "You didn't come alone." "No," he said, "but I'm the only one that survived the transfer." Alina's heart pounded. What transfer? He looked at her finally and said it. "I'm not Terran. I was built inside one." Above in orbit, Soren initiated Protocol Etherfall. Every Terran drone and assault carrier in the lunar sector began descending toward the Silent Basin. It wasn't an extraction. It was an eradication. He addressed his soldiers coldly. "We are not here to study. We are not here to negotiate. Whatever. Lives beneath the moon must die before it reaches Earth. Wipe the basin clean." Alina and Vesper raced through the subterranean corridors. Behind them, the Echo Sentinels followed soundlessly, illuminating glyphs that had not glowed in centuries. The vault was massive, no longer a mere chamber, but a sprawling city buried in lunar flesh. "This is not just an artifact," Alina whispered. "It's an ark," Vesper said. And Earth was always the destination. They reached the core of the vault, a massive reactor pillar reaching high into a dark dome, humming with unstable energy. The crystal jumped in Alina's hand like it wanted to merge. "It'll activate the gate," Vesper said. "But if it opens before we shut down the signal, it could bring the whole Echo fleet." Alina turned to him. "So we either let Earth be invaded or let Breck turn the moon into a graveyard." Vesper didn't speak. He didn't need to. Then came the scream of engines dropped. Pods crashed into the basin above like meteorites, drilling into the vault's roof. Explosions cracked the silenced Terran troops, poured into the ancient halls. Laser fire lit up the dark. A war had begun. Alina and Vesper split. She headed for the signal chamber to shut it down. He turned toward Breck's troops, armed only with a blade formed from condensed lunar ion gifted to him by the Echo beings. He wasn't human anymore. Not fully, but he remembered what it meant to fight for something worth dying for. Alina reached the signal chamber. Breck was already there, waiting, gun aimed at her chest. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "Oh, I understand perfectly," she spat. "You didn't come here to stop an invasion. You came here to steal a weapon." Breck smiled thinly. "Same thing." He fired. The shot hit the wall behind her, because Vesper appeared, too fast to see, slamming into Breck like a meteor. They crashed into the control array. Sparks exploded. Breck drew his blade. It wasn't Terran. It pulsed in sync with the crystallina's breath caught. "He has one too." Vesper's eyes widened. "No, he's one of us." But Breck's face twisted. "I'm the first of us. You're just the mistake they tried to bury." They collided. A duel of echoes outside. The gate began to glow. A rift opening above the moon, swirling with stars that didn't belong here. Alina screamed into her comms. "The gate is opening. I can't stop it." Breck drove his blade into Vesper's side. "You were never meant to wake," he hissed. Vesper, bleeding, reached up not to strike, but to touch the crystal. It responded. It shows. The gate didn't close. It shattered, and beyond it, something began to emerge. Not ships, not armies, but memory made manifest. A planet, shaped like a living being. Eyes that blinked across oceans of fire. Mouths whispering names from Earth's forgotten past. Alina stared into the rift, trembling. What is that?" Vesper's voice was fading. "Their home." "No." He corrected himself. "Our future." Alina couldn't breathe. The rift above the moon had fractured like glass touched by lightning. What shimmered beyond it was neither space nor dream. It was consciousness, living, ancient, vast. The Echo's homeworld wasn't a planet. It was a sentient construct, a living library of souls. An ocean of memory, stitched together by light and sorrow. She whispered through her comms, though no one was left to answer. They're not invaders. They're survivors. Below her, the battle had paused. Terran soldiers stood still, weapons half raised, caught between awe and dread. As they stared into the rift, the Echo Sentinels' tall, silent guardians gathered in formation, facing the light with reverence. The war had stopped, not because it ended, but because it had been overshadowed by something far older, by something that remembered before Vesper was dying blood dark, not quite red spilled onto the silver floor of the signal chamber. His hand still gripped the crystal, now fused into his chest, pulsing with soft azure light. His face flickered between human and something else refined, luminous, fragmented. Alina knelt beside him, pressing her forehead to his. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Don't you dare leave me now." He smiled, broken, tired, yet gentle. "I was never really here, Alina. Not like you were. I was—" A message, a warning, a key. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I don't want a key. I want you." A silence passed. He touched her hand, and you were the door. Asterisk above, Brexorn limped from the shadows. One eye blind, one arm scorched, but still breathing, still angry. The shattered remains of his blade buzzed at his belt. He leveled his plasma. Pistol at Vesper and Alina. "This isn't over," he growled. Alina stood, shielding Vesper. "You already lost." "No," Breck snarled. "We lost the moment we let things like him speak. The Echo, they're not memories. They're viruses. And you just opened the transmission." He aimed, fired a white bolt. Fast, clean, final but. It froze mid-air. Bolt hovered between them, trapped in a stasis field of pure harmonic light. It cracked, split apart, then vanished behind Breck. The air shimmered. A figure emerged. Not Echo, not human. Both. It looked like Vesper. No. It was Vesper, but elevated, whole, transcendent. The body on the floor, his old body shimmered and dissolved. Vesper stepped forward, eyes glowing with starlight. "You were right," he said to Breck. "We are viruses. Viruses of memory. But memory is the only cure for extinction." Breck stepped back, trembling. For the first time, he looked truly afraid. "You're not him," he whispered. "No," said Vesper. "I'm what he was meant to become." The chamber flared. Light poured from the rift above, cascading down in streams that entered every hallway, every crevice, every crew member's visor. It was data memories, histories not written, but felt from. Worlds torn apart by war, from mothers who sang to children that never grew old, from species that had no words for violence, yet still died screaming. Alina collapsed to her knees. Overwhelmed, she saw Earth. She saw it burn, not from invasion, from itself. And in that vision, she saw a choice. Asterisk Vesper extended a hand toward her. "Come with me," he said. "Earth will not fall today, but one day it will choose its own collapse. And when that day comes, they'll need someone who remembers this moment." Alina blinked through the tears. "And what about us?" "There's no us where I'm going," he said gently. "But there's a legacy, a light." She took his hand anyway, because love, like memory, cannot be caged in time. The rift pulsed once more, and closed. No fanfare, no explosion, just silence and two missing figures back on Earth. The world returned to its orbit of chaos and noise. News of a malfunctioning lunar event circulated for a week, then vanished. The crater in Silent Basin was sealed by Terran defense, but those who had stood beneath the rift, soldiers, scientists, enemies, survivors, knew the truth. Something came, something left, and something remained in a small lab in Reykjavik. A box arrived. Weeks later, no sender, no tracking code inside. There was a crystal pulsing blue waiting.